Flip the power switch off, let it go down. Wait for the lag to die out. Okay. Now we'll take a look at sort of a one-way entrance. We're going to make that entire courtyard piece right there into one area that you can only enter from the windows on the sides and that doorway. And then we're going to be, we're just going to do that first. We're going to just activate a single wall. Yeah. We don't need the corner, need the middle piece. There we go. Okay. So there we have a single wall that divides off that area. Pretty nice. Makes it so that you split up the center area combat into 2 zones. You can even split it into 3 zones. And then, without flipping the switch this time, I'm just going to add in... Oops, not that one. Add in the corners and the other side walls. As you can see, it's very good to flip that switch first because the lag gets ridiculous. And there we have a sort of entrance in the front, and we have entrances from the side hallways, but no entrance into the back, and the back combat has been divided into its own little sort of mosh pity area where you got people that can be jumping through the windows or through the door. Gonna flip that off now. Now, the only problem that I've really noticed is that with the way I had to set this up, with the massive amount of space all the redstone took, I couldn't really afford to make the middle areas behave well with the corner areas. I could have if I dug into the ground, but I had spent too much time on this already, and I was getting a bit too lazy to actually make the center areas behave with the corners. So you can't really do that with the setup I have here, but if you did, and especially if you just had one of these areas but made the corners longer so that you can make a large room out of them, it would be very nice because, as I just said, you can make a large room out of them so that you would have just everything popping up, and that way you could maybe put a chest in there or something and have it out in the open sometimes, so it's just a free run for it, or sometimes have the only entrance be one that's filled with dispensers or something that have arrows, or even the deadly chicken egg. Okay, that's off good. But, well, I guess we could take a look at the redstone for now that I think I've finished with all the examples. Basically, everything's just coming down this way from these large tentacle things. And I just sort of made some wonky staircases because, got lazy. Didn't want to make them look nice, although it looks kind of cool. And down here we have all the redstone. As I said, this isn't something you really want to do at all. I would advise doing something on a very small scale unless you are doing it in the open and really want a large change. But if you have sort of an indoor area, it'd be a lot easier to make something like this, because then you could just use pistons on the ceiling and the floor to make a 2x2 wall, or at least a 2-high wall, and any width you need. But it gets kind of annoying doing all this redstone for the larger projects, so maybe you can make something like this specifically in a room, like a building in your PvP arena that has something like this. And perhaps the building could have just nothing but corner pieces for walls and everything else be open like a pavilion. And then it would be serving about the same functionality as what I have here, but a bit less complicated. All that's happening right here, though, is that for every piece of wall or every corner that I have, I'm drawing power into it from the power switch, and I'm drawing power from the toggle switch for the piece of wall. So they just come down here into their own AND gate, which spits out the output and then plugs it into a vertical line of redstone torches. That way, instead of having everything on one layer and complicating things, having to plug it into the back, you just use inverters and separate them into multiple layers and just plug them into those. And suddenly, whenever you run out of horizontal space, you just go down a layer and you have miles of horizontal space. So the uses for this sort of thing are quite a bit, but as I said, most of them involve pistons instead of so much gravel, because this is a hell of a lot more laggy than just using pistons, and with all the redstone down there, it could be a bit tough to fix if something were to go wrong. And you would literally have to debug your redstone. I kind of like how it's a 3D programming language practically. But you may have noticed, but I've been doing a few things about PvP arenas recently. I've sort of started a mini-series. It's going to be another playlist about PvP related, like PvP arenas for dynamic experiences such as this, with more interactive PvP arenas and more dynamic ways to use the tools we have to make them more interesting. So you can probably look forward to more interesting than this videos involving that, because this is just a lot of redstone and examples. But I'll see you next time.